Welcome. Today we're talking about one of the most important concepts in Oiaré called elevation. Because the way you experience your life isn't determined only by what's happening around you, it's also shaped by the place you're experiencing it from. When your elevation changes, what you notice also changes. What feels possible then changes, the options you can see change. And understanding that will completely transform the way you respond to life's challenges. Okay, before we begin, let's quickly reconnect with the full Oiaré model. So Oiaré is built on four interconnected elements that shape how you experience and navigate life: architecture, elevation, inner compass, and choice. In the last episode, we explored your mind architecture. Today, we're diving into that second element, elevation. Because before you really can understand your architecture, before you can improve it or make intentional choices, you first have to understand the state you're operating from. Because what you're able to see will depend on the state you're seeing it from. So elevation is fundamentally, it's really your current emotional and physiological state. It's how you regulated your nervous system is, how much perspective you have, how clearly you're able to think in the moment, because you don't have access to the same thoughts or the same interpretations or the same choices from every state. There's a quote from Albert Einstein, or at least rumored to be from him, that states, "You cannot solve a problem from the same level of consciousness that created it." This principle is incredibly important because sometimes the answer isn't to think harder, right? The answer is to first change the state you're thinking from. Imagine standing deep in a valley at a pretty low elevation, facing a tall mountain. Understandably, your view is limited. You can only see what's directly around you in front of you. But as you climb, your perspective begins to expand. You can see more, right? And eventually you reach a point where you can see the entire landscape. The mountain didn't change, your vantage point did. And that's exactly how elevation works. I like to think of elevation in three simple levels: the valley, the horizon, and high elevation. We all move between them, okay? Sometimes several times in a single day. And the goal isn't to stay at high elevation all the time. The goal is to recognize where you are, understand what's available there, and know how to move upward when you need to. Okay, so let's start with level one, the valley. The valley is where overwhelm, reactivity, tunnel vision live. Okay, this is where you might be feeling anxious or angry, shamed, exhausted, discouraged, or simply emotionally flooded. When you're here, your nervous system believes it needs to protect you. Everything might feel urgent. A delayed text suddenly feels like rejection. One mistake feels like proof you always fail. One disagreement might feel like the relationship is over. Here, your attention narrows. Your mind begins speaking in extremes. You use words like never, always, nothing makes sense, right? You may feel a need to immediately respond, withdraw, or fix everything right now. But here's what's important: this isn't because you're broken, it's because your nervous system's trying to keep you safe. And that's why the valley is not the best place to make important decisions. The first goal isn't solving the problem here. The first goal is gaining enough elevation to see the problem differently. One thing I highly recommend for everyone to create is what I call a 5x5 emergency kit. It's simply just 5 actions that take maybe 5 minutes or less that help you begin moving out of this valley. The important part is, having this created before you actually need it, because when you're overwhelmed, you're usually not thinking clearly enough to ask, hey, what would help me right now? And instead, you might default to whatever habits are strongest for you. So decide ahead of time, okay? Your list might include things like as basic as drink a large glass of water, take a 5-minute walk, um, dance to one favorite song, spend 5 minutes stretching, practice slow breathing. And I encourage everyone to include at least one creative activity in their 5x5s. Sketching, journaling, playing an instrument, writing, coloring, taking photos, gardening, building anything. Anything that allows you to create rather than simply consume, because creativity naturally shifts your brain away from survival and towards curiosity, exploration, and possibility. It doesn't have to be productive, it doesn't even have to be good. You don't have to show it to anyone. It simply has to help you reconnect with yourself. The goal isn't to eliminate the emotion that you're feeling, it's to elevate your state just enough that you can begin seeing more than one possible response. And sometimes 5 intentional minutes are enough to move from reacting to choosing. Okay. Level 2, the horizon. As your nervous system settles, you begin reaching the horizon. The situation may not have changed, but you have. Your awareness begins returning, calm begins returning, options begin returning here. Okay. Instead of believing every thought, you begin observing your thoughts. You can ask yourself then, what do I actually know? What am I assuming in this moment? Is this coming from a situation or from my architecture? What else could be true? Okay. This is where choice begins coming back online. You stop seeing only one possible path, you begin seeing several. You can pause before speaking here. You can ask questions instead of making assumptions. You can wait before reacting, set boundaries if you need to before attacking. The horizon isn't about feeling perfect by any means. It's about recovering enough perspective to choose wisely. Okay, level 3, high elevation. Here, clarity becomes available. You begin seeing the larger landscape, not just the problem, but the patterns underneath it. Instead of asking, how do I make this feeling stop? You begin asking, what is this experience teaching me? What belief is being activated? Or what pattern keeps repeating? What choice aligns with the life I'm actually trying to build, right? So high elevation doesn't mean you stop experiencing difficult emotions. It means those emotions no longer become the only voice you can hear. You can hold multiple truths at once here. Someone can disappoint you, but you still know that they care about you. You can make a mistake, but you're not feeling like you're becoming a failure, okay? You can feel fear and still move forward. From this elevation, you can finally begin seeing your architecture clearly. And once you can see it, you can begin changing it. Okay, so throughout the day or the rest of this week, try asking yourself one simple question. Where is my elevation right now? Am I in a valley where I first need to regulate my nervous system? Am I at the horizon where I can begin exploring different possibilities? Or am I at high elevation where I can see the bigger picture and choose intentionally? Because the goal isn't to never visit the valley. The goal is simply to recognize it sooner and know how to climb. One of my ultimate favorite quotes is by Wayne Dyer, and it says, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And by gaining elevation, you do just that. It doesn't change your circumstances, at least not for now, but it changes what you're able to see, what you're able to think, and ultimately what you're able to choose. But even from high elevation, right, there's still one important question remaining. How do you know which direction is actually right for you? And that's where your inner compass comes in, which is exactly what we'll explore in the next episode. Wishing you a wonderful day. And remember, live by direction, not by reaction.